The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered under sterile white light. Dozens of species sat in tiered rows, insected chitterers, scaled diplomats, crystalline minds pulsing faintly in their containment fields. The air was thick with unease, their luminescent eyes fixed on the empty dais at the center. "They're late," hissed Counselor Viran of the Kale. Its mandibles clicked nervously. "Humans are always late." A low vibration rolled through the floor, the sound of heavy boots striking polished alloy. The chamber doors parted, releasing a gust of cold, recycled air that carried the metallic scent of weapon oil. The humans had arrived. 4 of them entered in perfect formation, each clad in black armor that seemed grown rather than forged. Their visors reflected the light, expressionless. Behind them walked a single figure in simple fatigues, tall, scarred, and calm. He was not armored, yet the room felt smaller when he entered. Counselor Viran's translator drone flickered. "State your name and purpose for the record." The human removed his glove, resting his bare hand on the cold surface of the dais. "Captain Elias Ward, Earth Defense Command." His voice carried a weight that silenced even the chittering races. "You requested soldiers. We're here to discuss terms." The counselor of the Vereen floated forward, his gelatinous body rippling. "Terms? You misunderstand. The Council is offering you employment. You'll serve as auxiliaries in the Zatha campaign. In return, Earth gains full member status." Ward studied him, expression unreadable. "We read your proposal. You're losing a war. You need something that bleeds and doesn't break." The Vereen's form wobbled indignantly. "Our drones and synthetic legions are sufficient. We require your species only for specialized operations." Ward smiled faintly, the kind of smile that belonged on a wolf. "You want monsters, Counselor. Don't dress it up in diplomacy." The room froze. The insected counselor clicked its mandibles again. "Humans exaggerate their prowess. You've fought only yourselves. You've never faced the Zather. They consume worlds." Ward's eyes hardened. "And yet you're still here, asking for help." That silenced the chamber. He stepped closer, his boots echoing. "You don't need peacekeepers. You need predators. And humanity, we've been practicing that role for millennia." A murmur spread through the alien assembly. Words like unstable, primitive, dangerous circulated through translation nodes. Ward waited, letting the tension settle, then placed a small, dark box on the table. He pressed a switch. The holoprojector flared to life, displaying images, burning cities, tanks rolling through alien terrain, orbital strikes carving canyons into worlds. Each was stamped with the crest of the Earth Defense Command. But what truly disturbed the Council was not the destruction, it was the humans themselves. Soldiers dragging wounded comrades out of infernos. Marines laughing with faces blackened by soot. A medic performing surgery in zero-G with trembling hands and a steady heart. "This," Ward said softly, "is what you asked for." The Council watched in silence. Some species lacked eyelids, yet found themselves blinking anyway. Counselor Viran leaned forward. "Your wars are inefficient. Billions die." Ward turned to him. "You asked for soldiers? You never asked for clean ones?" The crystalline delegate pulsed nervously. "If you unleash such violence among our ranks, the Council may fracture." Ward met its glow. "Then maybe it should. Sometimes things need to break before they can stand." For a moment, no one spoke. The counselors exchanged data through silent wavelengths. The collective intelligence of 20 species processed probabilities, risks, and potential losses. Finally, the chair of the council, an ancient being of light called Earthel, spoke. "You are dangerous." Ward inclined his head. "That's why you called us." Earthel's form flickered, voice resonating like distant thunder. "Do you understand what you are agreeing to? The Zather do not negotiate. They do not take prisoners. They consume everything. If we fail..." Ward interrupted gently. "If we fail, there won't be a galaxy left to argue over." He glanced at the 4 armored soldiers behind him. They stood unmoving, but every breath seemed coiled with potential violence. One, a woman with the call sign Ghost, tilted her head slightly, scanning the alien dignitaries. "Permission to speak, sir?" she asked quietly. "Granted," Ward replied. She stepped forward. "You want a war won? Then stop pretending it's about honor. You've been fighting to survive. We fight to finish things." The statement hung in the air like a blade. Earthel's form pulsed faintly. "And what do you seek in return?" Ward considered that. "Not membership. Not privilege. Just one promise." The light being dimmed. "Which is?" "That when this is over," Ward said, "you'll remember who saved you." Silence followed. No one dared move. Somewhere deep in the chamber, a ventilation system hummed softly, the only sound breaking the stillness. Finally, Earthel extended a limb of light toward the dais. "Very well. Humanity is accepted as an auxiliary force under Council command." Ward didn't move. "Under Joint Command," he corrected. "You lead the fleets. We lead the war." A ripple of outrage ran through the room. Voices overlapped in 100 frequencies, translators struggling to keep pace. Earthel's glow dimmed momentarily, a sign of irritation, but then brightened again, as if considering something deeper. "You presume much, human." Ward met the light's intensity without flinching. "No. I calculate much." A pause. Then, with a tone like molten glass cooling, Earthel said, "So be it. Humanity will fight beside us." Ward nodded once. "We'll deploy within 48 hours." He turned, signaling his soldiers. As they exited, the chamber erupted in whispers, speculation, fear, doubt. But among them, one truth crystallized. They had asked for soldiers. They had received something else entirely. In the corridor outside, Ghost walked beside Ward in silence. The metallic floor glowed faintly beneath their boots. "Think they'll regret it?" she asked. Ward gave a small, humorless smile. "They already do. They just don't know it yet." She looked ahead. "And the Zather?" He tightened his glove. "They'll learn what fear really means." As they reached the docking bay, the vast expanse of the human flagship Valkyrie loomed ahead, black, angular, alive with motion. Its hull bore scars from past wars, each one a reminder. Ward stopped for a moment, watching it. The galaxy had called for heroes. What it got instead were survivors. And survivors, he thought grimly, are always the last monsters standing. End of Chapter 1. The Zather moon of Harkonnen 9 was a graveyard of stars. Black clouds coiled over shattered mountains, and the air itself trembled under the endless pulse of alien machinery. The planet's crust had been stripped, mined, and infected. Its veins glowed faintly with bioluminescent fungus that fed on radiation. From orbit, it looked less like a world and more like a wound. Captain Elias Ward stood on the command deck of the Valkyrie, staring through the glass as lightning crawled across Harkonnen 9's atmosphere. Around him, the other Council ships held formation, sleek, crystalline vessels humming with light. They looked beautiful, fragile, ornamental. "Council fleets in position," reported Lieutenant Cade, the ship's tactical officer. "They're waiting for your signal, sir." Ward's jaw tightened. The Council had insisted on joint command, but they didn't understand war. Not the kind that clawed at the bones and stained the soul. "Are the ground teams ready?" Ward asked. 3 squads, sir. Ghost leading Alpha. Commander Rao with Beta. Delta's waiting for orbital clearance." Ward nodded. "Patch me through to Council Command." A translucent hologram flickered to life beside him, Earthel, the luminous being who led the Galactic Council. Its voice resonated through the bridge like the hum of a dying star. "Captain Ward? Proceed cautiously. The Zather are not primitive beasts. Their hive minds consume thought as easily as flesh." Ward folded his arms. "Then it's a good thing we're not here to be consumed." Earthel's glow flickered, disapproval, perhaps. "Your aggression endangers the mission. The objective is reconnaissance, not annihilation." Ward's tone turned cold. "You don't understand. The Zather don't negotiate. You can't reason with something that eats its enemies to remember their last thoughts. Reconnaissance doesn't stop monsters. He cut the channel before Earthol could respond. The bridge fell silent except for the rhythmic hum of the engines. Launch drop pods, Ward ordered. And tell Ghost to start the hunt. The drop pods tore through the storm like burning meteors. Inside one, Lieutenant Ghost checked her rifle, its matte black surface scarred from countless engagements. Across from her sat 5 soldiers, silent, focused, eyes steady in the flickering red light. Listen up, she said, voice calm but sharp. Command wants eyes on the hive. The Council wants us alive. I care about one thing, making sure whatever's down there never looks up again. Private Danner grinned. Permission to shoot first, ma'am? Granted, she said. And often. The pod shook violently as it entered atmosphere. Molten streaks flared outside. Ghost's grip tightened around the restraints. She'd been through worse, orbital descents into cities burning from orbit, raids on bioweapon facilities. But this felt different. The air was wrong. The pod slammed into the ground with bone-jarring force. The doors hissed open, and sulphurous wind rushed in, carrying the scent of rot. The sky above was bruised purple, lit by veins of lightning that never faded. They stepped out into hell. The landscape stretched into skeletal ruins, twisted metal, ancient bones, black rivers of melted glass. And scattered among them were the Zather. They weren't creatures so much as failures of biology, segmented, spine things that walked like nightmares. Their carapaces pulsed faintly, as if something inside them was breathing. Movement, 2 o'clock, whispered Danner. Ghost knelt, raising her rifle. The thermal scope flickered, and she froze. The heat signatures were stacked. One body inside another. The creatures weren't separate, they were fused together. Open fire, she said. Gunfire shattered the silence. High-velocity rounds tore through alien flesh, spraying luminous fluid that hissed against the soil. The first wave fell fast, but the ground beneath them began to move. Contact! They're tunneling! A fissure split open, and a mass of Zather poured out, hundreds, maybe thousands. The air filled with the shriek of claws scraping metal and the stench of burning decay. Ghost triggered her comm. Alpha to command, heavy contact. Multiple hostiles, close range. Ward's voice came through steady. Copy that. Beta's en route. Hold position. Sir, if we hold, we die. There was a pause. Then don't hold. Show them why we're here. Ghost grinned despite the chaos. With pleasure. She switched her rifle to full auto. The humans advanced, not retreating but charging. The aliens, adapted to consuming prey, faltered when the prey ran toward them. Ghost vaulted over a rock outcrop, tossing a plasma grenade into a swarm. The explosion painted the sky green. Push through! She shouted. They cut through the horde with surgical precision, covering angles, calling targets, fighting like a single, breathing organism. It wasn't clean. It wasn't efficient. But it was human. And it worked. Within minutes, the immediate area was a burning field of corpses. The surviving Zather retreated into the fissures, screeching. Status? Ward's voice asked through comms. Ghost breathed heavily. Hive perimeter secured. Minimal casualties. Beta's mopping up the flank. Good. We're detecting movement underground. Prepare for second phase. What second phase? Danner asked. Ward's voice came back, grim and final. Collapse the tunnels. Burn everything. From orbit, the Council's ships watched in disbelief. Thousands of explosions rippled across the planet's surface, not chaotic, but precise. The humans weren't simply bombing targets. They were carving patterns into the terrain, sealing tunnels, cutting off retreat. On board the Council flagship, Earthol observed the data feed. They're destroying the ecosystem, it said softly. A crystalline aid beside it pulsed in distress. They're erasing an entire biome. Even the Zather have rules of war. Earthol's form dimmed. Humans do not fight wars. They end them. On the surface, Ghost Squad regrouped near the smoking remains of a hive entrance. The ground still trembled from detonations below. Private Danner leaned on his rifle, panting. You think they're gone? Ghost looked toward the fissure, where faint light flickered beneath the ash. No. They'll be back. They always come back. Ward's voice crackled over comms. Extraction inbound. You did well, Lieutenant. She smirked. You should have seen it, sir. They were fast. Hungry. Beautiful in a disgusting way. Ward chuckled faintly. You're starting to sound like one of them. Maybe that's why we win, she said. He didn't disagree. As the dropships lifted off, the clouds parted briefly, revealing the stars. For a moment, the battlefield looked almost peaceful, until the light of orbital fire rained down again, cleansing what remained. Hours later, in the Council's war chamber, the delegates reviewed the combat footage. What they saw disturbed them more than the Zathar themselves. The humans fought like predators who'd learned patience, brutality guided by discipline, chaos shaped into precision. And behind every victory was an unsettling truth: they enjoyed it. Counselor Viran clicked his mandibles. They're uncontrollable. If they ever turn on us. Earthul silenced him with a wave of light. Then we will pray the Zathar reach us first. Aboard the Valkyrie, Ward watched the aftermath on the main screen. The planet burned in silence, its infection purged. For the first time, the Council fleets withdrew, not out of strategy, but out of fear. Ghost entered the bridge, her armor scorched, eyes steady. Mission accomplished. Ward nodded slowly. No. Mission begun. She frowned. Sir? He turned toward the viewport, where the faint outline of the next Zathar world gleamed in the distance. They wanted soldiers, he said quietly. They'll learn what they've unleashed before this is done. The stars reflected in his eyes like cold fire. Humanity wasn't fighting for glory or peace. They were fighting because it was what they were born to do. And somewhere deep within Harkoon 9, the hive stirred again, sensing something alien, something worse than itself. It whispered a word that only the brave dared to learn. Human. The council chamber was darker this time. The radiant panels that once shone with sterile light now pulsed dimly, as if the room itself were ashamed. Holograms of ruined worlds hovered between the delegates, each one marked. Zathar purged by human forces. 6 worlds in 9 days. The war had changed shape. The Zathar were retreating. But so was everyone's comfort. Counselor Viran of the Kale scraped his mandibles together. They raised entire biospheres. Oceans boiled, atmospheres burned. The Zathar are dead, but so is everything else. Across the table, the crystalline counselor of the Varine flickered, its body fracturing light into uneasy patterns. Their methods are unsustainable. Even victory feels contaminated. At the head of the chamber, Earthul, the ancient being of light, floated in silence. Its glow was faint, wavering. And yet, it said finally, the Zathar have not advanced in weeks. For the first time in centuries, they are afraid. That fear will spread, Viran hissed. Not just among them. Among us. You can't look into those humans' eyes and not see it. They fight like something broken. A ripple of unease moved through the chamber. Before anyone could answer, the doors opened. Captain Elias Ward entered, his strides slow, deliberate. His presence filled the space, not through power, but through a strange, quiet certainty. The other delegates fell silent. Counselors, he said, nodding once. You requested a progress report. Earthul's glow brightened slightly. We have concerns. Ward smiled faintly. You mean regrets? No one spoke. He continued, voice steady. We've cleared 6 hive worlds. The Zathar supply lines are collapsing. Your fleets have taken minimal losses. By any measure of war, this is success. Counselor Viran snapped. Success built on annihilation. Do you know what Harkoon 9 looks like now? The ground melts when the sun rises. Ward's eyes hardened. You called us because you were losing. You wanted soldiers. You got results. Results? Virun spat. You're turning victory into extinction! Ward stepped closer to the dais, his shadow slicing across the floor. You think this galaxy was ever going to survive clean? You think mercy works on things that eat your history for breakfast? The room fell silent again. Earthel's voice resonated quietly. You misunderstand us, Captain. We are not questioning your effectiveness. We are questioning your restraint. Ward's mouth curved in a humorless smile. Restraint is what made you need us. Earthel studied him. Your people have done in weeks what our armadas could not do in centuries. But I must ask, what will humanity do when there are no Zatha left to kill? Ward met its radiant gaze. We'll find something else worth saving. And if there's nothing left? He hesitated. For the first time, his composure cracked, barely visible, but there. Then he turned and left. On board the Valkyrie, Lieutenant Ghost stood on the observation deck, watching a dying star ripple across the void. Her reflection stared back at her in the glass, tired eyes, scarred face, calm as ever. Commander Rao joined her, a cup of recycled coffee steaming in his hand. You ever notice, he said, that every time we win, the Council looks more terrified? She didn't look away. They should be. Rao chuckled quietly. You sound like Ward. Ward's right, she said. They don't get it. War's not about victory. It's about survival. And survival doesn't come clean. He sipped his coffee, watching her. You think he's changing? She finally turned toward him. No. I think he's remembering. In his quarters, Ward sat alone, reading old messages from Earth. The images were static-filled, recorded before departure. Faces of his wife, his son, the small apartment window overlooking a dead ocean. Hey Dad, the boy said in the recording, smiling shyly. Mom says you're saving the galaxy? You better come back before I turn 12. The message ended. The silence that followed felt like a wound reopening. Ward closed the device slowly. Sir? A voice came through the intercom. Ghost. Council's requesting a debrief. He hesitated, then responded. Tell them I'll be there. And Ghost, make sure the crews rest. We'll need them sharp. Yes, sir. He leaned back, staring at the dark ceiling. Sharp, he murmured. Always sharp. Hours later, the Council's fleet gathered near Varian Prime, a once-inhabited world now pulsing with Zathar infestation. Human troops were preparing another ground assault. But this time, the Council demanded oversight. Earthel's projection appeared aboard the Valkyrie's bridge. Captain Ward, it said. A joint unit of Council observers will accompany your troops. This is not a request. Ward's expression didn't change. Then they stay out of the way. Earthel hesitated. Your reputation precedes you, Captain. The other species, they fear you. Good, Ward said. Fear keeps people alive. The drop ships descended again, silver streaks cutting through crimson clouds. Varian's surface glowed beneath them, alive with movement. The Zathar had fortified their hives with living structures, pulsating walls and screaming towers. Ghost led Alpha Squad down first. Council observers followed in armored exosuits, their insignia bright and unscarred. Stay close, Ghost said flatly. And if you see something moving that shouldn't be, shoot first, explain later. The observers exchanged nervous glances. They advanced through the ruins. The air vibrated with low frequencies, the hum of Zathar communication. Ghost's helmet filtered the sound, but she could feel it in her bones, like a whisper threading through her mind. Danner muttered. Feels like it's watching us. It is, Ghost replied. Then the ground cracked open. Hundreds of Zathar erupted at once, surrounding the squad. The observers panicked, firing wildly. Ghost and her soldiers moved with precise violence. Not fear, not rage, just cold instinct. Cover the left flank, she shouted. Rao, push them into the kill zone. The humans formed a semicircle, herding the creatures into open ground, then unleashed a barrage of thermite rounds. The explosion melted half the hive entrance. But one observer froze, staring as a Zathar, wounded and burning, crawled toward him. It wasn't attacking. It was pleading. Its mandibles clicked, forming broken syllables. Ghost turned, hearing the sound. Her blood went cold. The Zather was speaking human language. Wah, rrdddd. It rasped. She fired once. The thing stopped moving. Command, she said through the comm. We have a problem. In orbit, Ward listened to the report in silence. Around him, council delegates whispered in disbelief. The Zather talking? That wasn't possible. They devoured consciousness. They didn't return it. Earthel's voice trembled. They've consumed human minds. Ward's expression darkened. Then they've made a mistake. Earthel pulsed brighter. Captain, if they can replicate your tactics. Ward cut him off. They won't. Because they'll never understand what drives us. He stood, turning toward the viewport. Fear. Rage. Love. You can't consume that. You can only burn in it. The council's projections flickered nervously. Prepare the fleet, Ward said. We end this before they learn to become us. That night, in the dark silence of his cabin, Ward watched the stars drift by. Somewhere among them, the enemy was learning his voice, his memories, his pain. He poured a drink, the liquid trembling in his hand. The galaxy had wanted soldiers. It was starting to realize what it truly called forth, not warriors, not heroes, but the kind of monsters who built their strength from the ashes of everything they'd lost. And in the reflection of the glass, Ward thought he saw something move, a flicker of his own face, twisted, alien, whispering his name. He didn't blink. He just raised the glass in a silent toast. To the beasts they fear most. The stars over Varian Prime bled red as the human fleet prepared for the final assault. Every ship, scarred, silent, purposeful, drifted in formation like a pack of predators waiting for the signal to kill. Captain Elias Ward stood at the Valkyrie's command window, his reflection merging with the void. Behind him, officers whispered and typed, but he heard none of it. His thoughts were trapped in the voice he'd heard through Ghost's report, the rasping, broken word the Zather had stolen. Ward. They had learned his name. A shadow of himself echoed inside his head. Every decision, every burned world, every moment he'd convinced himself that survival justified everything. Captain, said Lieutenant Cade quietly, breaking the silence. Council fleets are holding back. They're refusing to engage. Ward didn't turn. Of course they are. They want us to finish this, then bury what's left of us. You think they'll turn on us? Ward's gaze didn't waver from the dying planet below. They already have. They're just waiting until the Zather and humanity finish killing each other first. On the Council flagship Seraphian, panic was no longer hidden behind protocol. Holograms of battle projections flickered wildly, each predicting the same outcome: human victory, Zather extinction, Council irrelevance. Counselor Vierun clicked his mandibles furiously. They will burn the galaxy when they're done. They're uncontrollable. Earthel's luminous form pulsed dimly. And yet without them, we die. The Zather adapt faster than we can counter. If we withdraw now... They've infected the Zather, shouted the crystalline Vereen. Their rage, their defiance, it's spreading through the hives. We've unleashed an emotional contagion. The chamber descended into chaos. Only Earthel remained still, light flickering faintly. Then our choice is simple, it said at last. Contain the humans before they consume everything. Down on Varian Prime, Lieutenant Ghost crouched behind a slab of burning wreckage, helmet cracked, eyes narrowed. The ground shook with distant detonations. Alpha Squad status? She demanded over comms. Static. Then, half gone, came Danner's strained voice. They're everywhere, Lieutenant. They're using our tactics. Ghost peeked over the cover. Her heart went cold. The Zather weren't charging mindlessly anymore. They were flanking. Covering each other. Coordinating. Jesus, she whispered. They learned. A massive silhouette emerged from the smoke, a Zather warform, towering and grotesque, its carapace etched with glowing patterns that looked disturbingly familiar. Across its chest, scorched into the chitin, was a crude human symbol, the Earth Defense Command insignia. It raised a limb and mimicked a salute. Ghost's finger hovered on the trigger, trembling. "Command, they're copying us." Ward's voice came through calm, but grim. "Confirmed. They've integrated what they consumed. Tactics. Behavior. Identity. Orders?" He hesitated. "Same as always. End them." She smiled faintly, the exhaustion in her voice fading into iron. "Aye, sir." The humans pushed forward through the storm. Plasma streaks carved through the dark, and the ground burned with blue fire. Every inch they gained cost blood, but every inch they took stayed theirs. Ghost fought like a machine built for muscle and will, her rifle empty, switching to blades then bare hands. Around her, the Zather shrieked, a chorus of distorted human echoes. "Ward!" They hissed in broken mimicry, voices melding from hundreds of throats. "Ward, we remember!" She stabbed one through the chest, twisting until it fell silent. "Not for long," she muttered. In orbit, the Valkyrie's sensors screamed. "Massive energy readings below," Cade said. "Zather biocore is overloading. If it detonates, the entire hemisphere goes up." Ward didn't flinch. "Evacuate ground forces. Pull the fleet back to safe range. Sir, Ghost's team is still planet-side." "Do it," Ward said quietly. There was a pause. Then Cade whispered, "Aye, sir." The Valkyrie's engines ignited. One by one, the human ships began to rise, leaving behind streaks of orange fire across the poisoned sky. Ward stared down at the planet, jaw set. "Ghost," he said softly, activating his private calm. "This isn't a fight we can win by standing." Her voice came back, faint but steady. "Wasn't planning to stand, sir. Just planning to make sure they never rise again." "Ghost, don't argue. You taught us that survival means finishing the job, remember?" Ward closed his eyes. "You don't have to prove anything." Her laugh was faint static. "Wasn't trying to." Then the calm went dead. On the surface, Ghost limped toward the pulsating hive core. The structure loomed above her like a living cathedral, walls of flesh and metal, every surface throbbing with alien light. She could feel it thinking, whispering to her through the echoes of stolen minds. "You are us now," it murmured. "We are you." She smiled bitterly. "Then you already know what happens next." She armed her last charge, an antimatter core ripped from a downed drone, and pressed it against the pulsing wall. The hive screamed. Ghost looked up at the storm one last time. "For Earth," she said softly. "For monsters like us." Then she pulled the trigger. The explosion consumed half the planet. The shockwave rippled through space, tearing through the atmosphere like the birth cry of a new star. From orbit, the Council's ships recoiled. Even their shields flared against the blast. Ward watched in silence as Varian Prime split open, a scar across the heavens. His chest felt hollow, grief buried under discipline, pain hidden beneath purpose. Cade whispered, "Alpha Squad." He didn't answer. Instead, he turned toward communications. "Open a channel to the Council." Moments later, the bridge filled with the faint glow of the Council's holograms. Their voices overlapped in outrage and fear. "Humanity has gone too far. You destroyed an entire world. This war is over." Ward stood unmoving, the chaos washing over him. Then, when the noise reached its peak, he spoke. "You're right. It's over." They fell silent. "We did what you asked," he continued. "We ended the Zather threat. But don't mistake that for obedience. Humanity doesn't serve the Council. We serve survival. Ours. And yours." Earthel's light dimmed. "And now?" Ward's voice was calm, low. "Now you'll decide whether you want to live with what you made, or die trying to control it." The connection cut. Later, alone on the observation deck, Ward watched the debris of Varian Prime drift across the stars. The reflection of firelight danced in his eyes. He remembered Ghost's voice, her laughter, her defiance. He remembered the Council's fear, the Zathar's mimicry, the echo of his own name coming from alien throats. Maybe they were right. Maybe humanity had become the beasts the galaxy feared. But monsters, he thought, were the only things the dark ever truly respected. Behind him, the crew stood in silence, waiting for orders. Ward didn't turn. "Set course for Earth," he said. "We've done enough saving for one galaxy." As the Valkyrie turned toward the stars, the wreckage of Varian Prime faded into the void, and somewhere, in the darkness beyond sight, something ancient whispered the word that had defined it all. Human. And the galaxy, in its quiet dread, finally understood what that meant.